In the ancient art of Kintsugi, broken pottery isn't discarded, it's mended with gold, creating something more valuable than the original. Our minds work in a remarkably similar way. When we break, when we suffer, we have the extraordinary capacity to rebuild ourselves stronger than before. This transformation isn't magic or mysticism, it's a scientifically documented process of neurological and psychological growth. The human brain possesses an almost mythical ability to rewire itself. Each moment of psychological strain creates new neural pathways, much like how a muscle develops microtears before growing stronger. This isn't just poetic imagery, it's documented neuroscience. When we encounter resistance, our brains physically change, creating stronger connections and more efficient neural networks. Our triggers, those moments that send us into emotional turmoil, are like psychological fingerprints, unique to each of us. They're remnants of past experiences where our minds created survival shortcuts, emergency exits from pain. These adaptations might have served us once, perhaps when we were younger, more vulnerable, or faced with situations beyond our capacity to process. But like outdated software running on a modern system, these reactions have become obsolete, often causing more harm than protection. The stress we feel today isn't our enemy. It's actually a messenger, highlighting these outdated patterns. When we feel triggered, it's our brain offering us a chance to heal, to replace those emergency shortcuts with healthier neural pathways. This perspective transforms stress from a burden into a guide, pointing directly to where our psychological growth needs to happen. Your nervous system operates within what neuroscientists call a window of tolerance. Think of it like a temperature range where a plant thrives. Below this window, you're numb, disconnected. Above it, you're overwhelmed, panicked. The goal isn't to avoid stress, it's to gradually widen this window. Each time you successfully navigate discomfort while staying present, your window expands. Your capacity to handle life's challenges isn't just about getting stronger, it's about expanding the range where you can function optimally. Let's dissect what happens in your brain during moments of intense psychological pressure. When you face adversity, your amygdala floods your system with stress hormones. It's an ancient survival mechanism. This flood of chemicals prepares your body and mind for action, sharpening your focus and heightening your awareness. Understanding this process is crucial because it transforms these moments from something to fear into something to harness. Here's what makes psychological growth fascinating. The very act of resisting discomfort amplifies it. When you tense against anxiety, you create anxiety about anxiety. When you fight sadness, you create sadness about sadness. But when you turn towards these sensations with curiosity rather than resistance, something remarkable happens. They begin to shift on their own. This isn't positive thinking, it's the neuroscience of acceptance. So the first step in building mental fortitude isn't fighting your stress response, it's understanding it. When you feel overwhelmed, your brain isn't malfunctioning. It's actually preparing you for growth. Your heart rate increases, your breathing quickens, and your muscles tense. All of these responses are designed to help you perform at your peak. The key is learning to channel this energy productively rather than letting it paralyze you. Most of our triggers follow a predictable pattern: stimulus, reaction, escape. But there's a crucial microsecond, a gap between stimulus and response, where transformation becomes possible. Learning to recognize this gap, to pause in that charged moment, is like finding a doorway out of an automatic reaction. It's not about fighting the old pattern, but about becoming aware enough to choose a new one. This gap is where your power lives. Recent neuroscience research has revealed something fascinating about mental strength. It operates much like a muscle. When you stress a muscle, it adapts by becoming stronger. Similarly, when you stress your mind in controlled ways, it adapts by becoming more resilient. This process involves multiple brain regions working in concert: the prefrontal cortex for decision-making, the hippocampus for memory formation, and the amygdala for emotional processing. Let's break this down into practical steps you can implement immediately. The first step is what I call micro-exposures, deliberately placing yourself in slightly uncomfortable situations for progressively longer periods. Begin with 30 seconds of discomfort. Stand in cold water, hold a difficult yoga pose, or engage in a challenging conversation. The key is to start small and build gradually. As you practice these micro exposures, something remarkable happens in your brain. The neural pathways responsible for stress management become more efficient. It's like upgrading the processing power of your mental hardware. Your brain begins to recognize these moments not as threats, but as opportunities for expansion. This isn't about pushing yourself to breaking point, it's about systematic, intentional growth. The next level involves what neuroscientists call stress inoculation. Through controlled exposure to challenging situations, you build up psychological antibodies. Start with 5 minutes of mindful meditation while sitting with discomfort. Don't try to change the discomfort, just observe it. This practice strengthens your prefrontal cortex, enhancing your ability to regulate emotions and make clear decisions under pressure. Your nervous system has a built-in safety net that most people never learn to use. When you're overwhelmed, making eye contact with a trusted person, hearing a friendly voice, or feeling safe human connection can instantly shift your nervous system from survival mode to social engagement. This is why isolation makes everything harder. We're literally wired to co-regulate with others. Building mental strength isn't a solo journey. It's about learning to use our biological capacity for connection. Third step, develop what psychologists call emotional granularity. But let's go deeper than just labeling feelings. When we say we're frustrated or disappointed, we're using words to describe something far more primal, actual physical sensations in our bodies. Your shoulders might tighten, your chest might constrict, your stomach might churn. These bodily sensations are your most direct window into emotional truth. The words we use, stressed, anxious, overwhelmed, are just concepts, mental shortcuts. The real data lies in the physical sensations, the racing heart, the shallow breathing, the clenched jaw. By tuning into these bodily signals, rather than just labeling them, you develop a more sophisticated understanding of your emotional landscape. Your brain's stress response system is incredibly complex, and it speaks first through the body. When you encounter a challenge, thousands of neurons fire in specific patterns, creating these physical sensations before you even have words for them. Through deliberate practice in sensing and feeling, rather than just thinking and labeling, you can actually reshape these patterns. Think of it as reprogramming your mental software at the most fundamental level, not through language, but through direct bodily awareness. Now let's explore a technique I've developed called reverse comfort mapping. 1. Start by documenting everything that makes you uncomfortable, from public speaking to difficult conversations. Rate each situation on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 might be sending a simple email to a colleague, and 10 would be giving a keynote speech to thousands. Level 3 or 4 situations are those that make you moderately uncomfortable, but don't trigger panic. Perhaps speaking up in a small team meeting or having a one-on-one difficult conversation with someone you trust. These moderate challenges are your growth sweet spot. They push you enough to stimulate new neural pathways, but aren't so intense that they overwhelm your system and trigger shutdown. Start with these manageable discomforts and gradually work your way up the scale as your resilience builds. 2. The next phase involves developing your learning reflex. This is the automatic tendency to ask, what can I learn from this when faced with challenges? This simple shift in perspective actually changes your brain's chemistry. Instead of producing stress hormones that shut down thinking, your brain releases chemicals that enhance learning and memory formation. Understanding your brain's chemistry during stress allows you to harness it effectively. That surge of norepinephrine that causes your heart to race? It also enhances focus and memory formation. The cortisol that makes you feel anxious, it's preparing your body and mind for peak performance. These aren't your enemies. They're tools for growth. 3. Master what neuroscientists call autonomic regulation through controlled breathing exercises. When you feel overwhelmed, engage in 60 seconds of box breathing. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. This pattern actually changes your brainwave patterns, shifting you from beta stress waves to alpha learning waves. 4. Build what psychologists call collective resilience through structured group challenges. When we face difficulties together, our brains release oxytocin, the bonding hormone. This chemical not only helps us feel connected, but also enhances our ability to learn and adapt. Find others who are actively working on their mental strength and create regular challenges together. 5. Document your journey meticulously. Create a resilience journal tracking 3 key metrics: the intensity of the challenge, your initial response, and your adapted response. This isn't just about motivation. It's about creating a feedback loop that strengthens neural pathways. Every time you record a success, you reinforce the neural networks associated with resilience. Recent studies using advanced brain imaging have revealed something remarkable. Mental strength isn't a fixed trait. It's a set of neural networks that can be systematically upgraded. Your brain's neuroplasticity, its ability to form new connections, peaks when you're operating at about 70% of your perceived maximum capacity. This sweet spot between comfort and overwhelm is where true growth happens. Over time, these practices literally change your brain's structure. The areas responsible for emotional regulation grow larger and more connected. The regions involved in fear response become more regulated. Your baseline resilience increases, allowing you to handle greater challenges with less effort. Let's look at how this plays out in real life. When you encounter a challenge, your upgraded neural networks now activate more efficiently. Instead of being overwhelmed by stress, you access your prefrontal cortex more quickly, making better decisions under pressure. This isn't about eliminating stress. It's about developing a more sophisticated response to it. 6. Develop what I call stress graduation, the ability to systematically increase your capacity for challenge. Start each week by intentionally taking on one task that feels slightly beyond your current capacity. Your brain will adapt by creating new neural pathways, making previously challenging tasks feel manageable. As we wrap up, remember, this journey isn't linear. Some days you'll feel stronger, others you'll feel like you've lost ground. This variation is actually crucial for development. Just as muscles need recovery time after exercise, your brain needs integration periods to strengthen new neural pathways. Like that golden-veined pottery we started with, your mind becomes more valuable through repair and reinforcement. Each challenge you face, each moment of discomfort you push through, adds another golden line to your mental foundation. This isn't just philosophy, it's neuroscience in action. If you found value in this video, please share your journey of building mental strength in the comments below. Subscribe for more evidence-based strategies and turn on notifications to join our community of intentional growth. Thank you for watching. This is Ayla, signing off.